Michael Stets with the Fight Nerd. I'm here with UFC Hall of Famer Randy Couture here in Astoria, Queens, New York at Titan Gym. Randy just got finished with an MMA seminar, and Titan Gym is also an affiliate of the Xtreme Couture MMA program. So touch on the seminar and on the Xtreme MMA program.
It was a good group. It was my first chance to come out here to Astoria and see the Titan Gym and kind of get the lay of the land, work with some of the instructors and work with some of the students here. And, yeah, it's been a good experience. Great facility, 10,000 square feet here, and you know they're trying to expand the brand and find quality people like John to carry on the curriculum and the technique that we try to teach in Xtreme Couture.
And you've been away from the sport a long time now. You have obviously your gym, your clothing label. You've been a commentator for some of the UFC stuff on Fox. You've been an actor, of course, the Expendables 1 and 2. How effective has that been for you to fill that competitive void for you not being in the cage anymore?
You know, I think I went out at the right time and went out on my own terms, and that was important to me. You know, I enjoy being involved in the sport the way I am now, working with the guys, doing seminars, teaching and training still trying to stay in decent shape. And the acting thing is fun. It's a competitive business. And I think you know, that fuels my fire and keeps me interested for sure.
It must have been an exciting experience to work with Sly Stallone and Jet Li and Bruce Willis, all those guys. So going to different parts of the world, different countries to film. Do you have any experiences you can share with us? Maybe off-screen moments or something that you haven't talked about yet? A funny moment, maybe, or.
You know, it's a great group of guys, and most people would think with that many alpha males in the same space there would be drama and issues, but there really wasn't. I think everybody has a tremendous respect for obviously the big 3 or 4 guys there, and they kind of set the stage. I think they've been in the business as long as they have because they don't have a bunch of drama. They aren't you know, a bunch of prima donnas. They're hardworking guys. They're very serious about what they do. So we had a great time working together. It was great to be around them and learn from them and see the way they operate. No real crazy stories that I could think of. It was a challenge for sure being in Bulgaria for 3 months, working 12-hour days, 6 days a week, staying in a hotel for that long. I enjoyed the country, got to do some sightseeing, managed to make it to one of the old monasteries there. Went down to Istanbul and toured there a little bit, went down to Athens also. We're all kind of close in the Baltic area down there, so definitely got to see some things and experience a little bit different part of the world.
How about that fight scene with Stone Cold Steve Austin in the first one? Talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, you know, Steve Austin's a huge MMA fan, and every time we got together, he had a million questions. He knew the sport inside and out, statistics, each and every fighter, he knew a ton. So I think 10 years ago, he would have been an MMA fighter for sure. He's definitely a big physical guy, and him and I had a good time working together and working out that fight scene and doing that whole thing at the end of Expendables 1. So it was exciting for me to get to kind of be in there with a guy like Steve and to see an MMA guy and a WWE guy come together. I think that Sly's very smart. He knows exactly what he's doing.
I would agree with you 100%. And now you also, I thought in a comedic role, a lot of people might have not seen it, but the movie Setup. I thought it was hilarious that seeing you spinning the gun and you're kind of like one of the mob lackeys.
I got the opportunity first to work with Bruce and Curtis Johnson, 50 Cent. And, the character was what did it for me. It was a small part, but I got to kind of be this goofy, squirrely, cocky mobster and ultimately, goofing off with a gun and shoot myself in the face. So I thought it was great. I enjoyed it.
And excellent. I was laughing out loud like crazy. Really funny. Now, how about you mentioned last night on MMA Uncensored, you got a new movie going with Dolph Lundgren coming out.
Yeah, that's right. We just finished a deal to do an independent film called Rush. Dolph and I will get to play lead characters in this movie, and I really got to know Dolph a lot in both the Expendables. He's a great guy, very smart. Been doing this for a long, long time, so it's a pleasure and honor for me to get the chance to work with him and play a lead role in a movie.
Look forward to it. When's that due to come out?
You know what? I'm not sure. Always a question how long it takes him to turn around to get things cut together and done out the way they want. So it could take as long as a year sometimes for a lot of movies. So we'll see. We'll start filming in December, and hopefully sometime in 2013 that thing will be out.
And on a sad note, MMA world lost a legend in Jeff Blatnick's passing. Obviously, you're a wrestler, and I know wrestlers always talk about being a tight-knit family. If you could give us some sentiments on Jeff Blatnick and what he meant to wrestling and MMA.
I've known Jeff for a long, long time, and certainly in the wrestling community, to see a guy, first of all, overcome Hodgkin's disease the way he did, to go on and kind of be that Cinderella story, be in the right place at the right time in the '84 Olympics and win a gold medal, and then, later commentate all the Olympic Games as our wrestling representative. I don't think anybody understood the sport more and represented the sport better. And then he stepped into MMA, and in a lot of ways was instrumental in legitimizing a largely misunderstood sport of mixed martial arts. Most people saw us as thugs and saw it as human cockfighting. And here's this Olympic champion who was a pretty articulate guy representing it, ultimately becoming the commissioner, helping kind of tweak some of the rules and make it a little more viewer-friendly and a little more understandable to the athletic commission. So I think Jeff, historically will go down as one of those guys that we'll certainly sorely miss, and who's played a big role in both representing the sport of wrestling and mixed martial arts.
And here we are, the sport's 20 years old, and still wrestling is tried and true. You look at some of the champs in the sport; they all have strong wrestling pedigree. How proud are you as a wrestler to see a champ like a Ben Askren? You have Jake Shields, who's a wrestler. So many guys. Daniel Cormier, who's now coming through the ranks and started late like yourself. So it's kind of a good parallel to talk about him. How do you feel about wrestling today?
Well, I definitely think that wrestling is the oldest combative sport for a reason. We had a lot of things figured out a long time ago, and I think guys in the wrestling world are now starting to see mixed martial arts as their professional outlet. The opportunity for them to be a professional athlete in this society is a pretty prestigious thing. So we're a very dedicated breed of athlete. It's a tough sport, both wrestling and mixed martial arts. So I think you're going to see more and more guys from the wrestling world foray into mixed martial arts and continue to kind of solidify and give, first of all, the sport of wrestling the legitimacy that it hasn't really achieved in mainstream population. And I think ultimately legitimize and continue to legitimize mixed martial arts as the strongest combative sport in the world for a reason.
I bet you would have liked that NCAA coverage back when you were wrestling.
Yeah,
Everyone's
nice.
All over it now.
It was nice. It was great this last year to go to St. Louis and go to the NCAA. It's the first time I've been since 1999, so it was cool.
And how important is it to translate the wrestling into other forms of grappling, not just jiu-jitsu, but catch wrestling, sambo, judo.
Yeah.
I know you worked with a guy, Neil Melanson, who's highly touted throughout the MMA industry.
Absolutely. The catch wrestling thing obviously makes a ton of sense for me, fits me, and I think in general, seeing that style come back to the forefront, it's what collegiate wrestling and pro wrestling was grounded out of, was catch, sketch, can. And Neil's one of the best. Obviously, I got my black belt under Neil. I've been working with him for several years now. But I think wrestling in general, I think the first thing I figured out was wrestling alone isn't enough. You got to learn, keep an open mind, and learn how to twist and implement your wrestling into mixed martial arts situations. And that's what the best guys are doing.
And you've only been submitted a couple of times, and I don't think at all in the UFC. So you've been able to implement it successfully throughout your career. How tough was that?
I mean, sometimes you learn lessons the hard way. I got caught, I think in my 8th or 9th fight against Enson Inoue in a bad position, got caught in an armbar. I think I learned in the Valentin Overeem fight in Japan I took a lousy shot and stuck on my knees and got caught in a guillotine. That happens. I learned the valuable lessons in those instances. But it's definitely a chess match. Sometimes you make the wrong move.